Yes, welcome to the newest episode of the Big Ag Show podcast. And today we got some special folks here. We have the Precision Ag team from Everglades Equipment Group, and we're going to learn what that actually means today. We're going to learn who these guys are. But really the intent today is to understand where in the world of the industry of agriculture, where is this whole smart thing at? Where is it going? You know, a lot of people talk about there's precision solutions and there's autonomy and there's technology. So we're going to dive in with this team today and try to understand what they're doing and where this whole thing is going for all of our viewers out there. So let's just start by introducing these guys. I'll go over here to my right, the guy in red. We'll let you start.
I'm Jeremy Nipper. I'm the agricultural sales manager for the company. Been with Everglades for 8 years. Started out managing a store in Palmetto and moved to the agricultural sales manager about 2.5 years ago.
I'm Aaron Bruce, so I'm the Precision Solution Sales Manager. I've been in this role about 5 months, but Georgia boy, just like Nipper, so.
Oh, y'all had to mention that.
Oh, had to.
There's some bias in this.
Got to bring some
podcast.
experience to Florida. Come.
Yeah. Oh.
Brad Rooks. I'm with the Integrated Solutions, Precision Solutions team, and I've been with Everglades 11 years. Live out of Okeechobee. Started with Uncle Bill.
There we go. And our followers know Uncle Bill. He was on the podcast.
Uncle Bill. Got my start with him, so followed him all around the Glades for a few years, and here we are.
Well, let's do that. Let's talk about, you know, from the snapshot of Everglades. You'll probably be the best at doing this. You've been here the longest out of this crew, I guess, working on this space. Can you give us kind of the history of how Precision Solutions were introduced at Everglades?
Yeah, so it started with Bill. He kind of was a one-man show for a few years, I think, handling everything, and they brought me on to just kind of shadow him and learn about the Glades and kind of just see what he was doing and understand how things work in the Glades, and spent about the first 6 months just following him around, learning auto track and rate controllers and whatnot, and ended up in Plant City that summer. Things started kicking off up there pretty good, and did a bunch of rate controllers up there and learned about strawberries and whatnot, and it's just kind of been a snowball ever since.
What'd you do before you got into that?
My family's in the dairy business, so I was a dairy farmer for my whole life until I pretty much came here.
Just for quick reference, what did you do as a dairy farmer?
Everything.
Some people think that just means playing with cows.
So pretty much you got to feed them and you got to milk them, and every day of the year.
So why did you get out of that?
It's just I needed a change.
Yeah.
You know, so luckily for me, my dad was like, you know, if you ever want to do something else, go try something else. You know, you can always come back to the farm. So that was pretty cool. He this deal came about, and I was like, I think I might try it. So.
Well, that's really cool because, you know, it's not just any job, right? Like, I find that this is a super fascinating job. When you're looking at a lot of jobs, it's the same thing, but this is not the same thing, right? Like, this whole world is all brand new. So I'm sure like 11 years ago when you saw they're doing precision agriculture, you were like, just like the rest of us, like, what the heck does that mean?
Right. At first it was like, just plug and play. You just put the displays in, you plug them in, and, you know, it starts with guidance, but it's evolved into so much more than that with all the rate controllers and leveling systems, and, you know, we're into even more stuff now.
What do you think the first precision ag piece was, like, to hit the market? Like, what would you consider the first piece? Because, like, to me, I would say a light bar. You know, used to, we'd have spreader trucks, and jump in the spreader truck and you literally had tape on the mirrors on both sides, you know, that way you could see your last track, and you had to sit completely still in the seat and, you know, look left and right to make sure your tracks were lined up with where that tape mark was. And then the light bar comes out, and we thought that was the greatest thing on earth because it told you off of GPS, WASP GPS in the beginning, that you were a foot off or 2 foot, it was a dot. If the dot moved left, you needed to bring it back to the middle. And, so would you consider that the first piece, you think? Yeah.
That, and then they had some rate control back in the day, some like mid-tech stuff, I think, that was, GPS based. And to start with, they've been doing rate control and steering for a while.
Well, Jeremy, I want to ask you, I want to follow up on that. Like, can you re-explain that for us? You said the tape method. What does that mean?
Yeah, so we had foam markers in trucks way back when. So basically the way that worked was the truck would drop foam out of the bottom. And that's how you knew where your last pass was, because when you turned to make your next pass, there'd be foam dots, like literal dots through the field. And you had to line the truck up off of that dot. So you basically had tape on the mirror or anywhere on the truck. So that
okay.
as long as that tape was following that dot, you knew that you were pretty much in line, whether you wanted to be 60-foot swath, 80-foot swath, 40-foot swath, whatever it was. That's how you knew, was by looking at that tape. And you had to sit like in the seat, because if you slouch down, your tape.
Oh, yeah, you're moving the angle. Yeah.
You'd be too far.
That's amazing, honestly. That's really cool. So then you guys got into what did you say was that next step? Yeah. Light bars.
Yeah. So basically, you had a receiver on top of the truck that picked up GPS, and that's how it knew where the truck was at in the field. And you could set your swath in there, in the light bar system, just 40 foot, 60 foot, whatever you wanted. So then you didn't look back at your last track; you just watched the light bar. It would have 2 green dots. This was a mid-tech that I was running at the time, but it would have 2 green dots in the middle. It had a single dot right in the center, and that center dot would move left or right depending on which way you needed to go to stay on your swath mark. And as long as those 3 dots were aligned, you were on track.
Very interesting. So, Brad, you told us how you kind of got in. That was 11 years ago. Why don't you guys as a group kind of walk us from that point to what has happened to that point until now, and how I'm staring at you 3 guys running the show as the precision team at Everglades.
Yeah, so it's started me and Bill, and it grew pretty quickly. We had added some guys, and we had to break things up as the stores grew, and we added locations as well. So I think we were at 10 stores when I started, and so now we're at 17, 18. So I think we added a couple stores right the year I started, so we went from 10 to 12 the first year. And I traveled between Belle Glade and Okeechobee, Fort Pierce area, and then did a lot of work up in the Plant City, Palmetto area, and started learning up there from some guys. And once that kind of took off that first season, Bill realized we had to split things up. So I kind of stayed to the south, and we added a guy to the north, and so then we split it that away. And so
I remember walking in Bill's office and just seeing a bunch of those green bubbles. What was he doing with those?
What'd you just say? Bubbles?
Yeah, there's like
or a hat, or what else they call them?
Bubbles, helmets. Yeah,
It's
he was
a
always in there
GPS
screwdriving
receiver.
one of them things.
Yeah.
What was he doing with those?
He's probably putting the radios on them, RTK radio on them for
Okay.
even more precision.
Well, before we go there, let's ask Aaron here. Aaron, tell us about what your path to this was.
I spent a decade at UGA. They sent me all over the world. But then I actually met the woman that's my wife now and immediately moved to Florida. I've grown up in agriculture, but Florida's its own little bubble. It's got everything under the sun. And I mean, we're from Georgia, the land of cotton, peanuts, corn. You might have tobacco, but down here you actually have anywhere from tomatoes, blueberries, citrus grows, of course. But seeing how some of this precision ag has adopted from row crop settings to being run down here, I've worked for a few different companies, been back and forth between Georgia and Florida a fair amount, but then somehow or another ended up with this blessing of finding my home at Everglades. So now it's nice to work with such a company that's versed on it and open to precision ag, trying to tackle it and make sure that, it fits what our farmers need down here. Because it's more than just, obviously, row crops.
Yeah.
We've got specialty crops. There's a lot of people that may not understand, you're talking about bubbles. It's come a long way to what the future's going to hold for us. So, and Everglades is going to be a part of it.
What were you doing at UGA? Hold on, we're just gonna warn all the viewers here. We did tell Jeremy not to cough.
Oh,
I've been
man.
holding it in for like 5 minutes. I just got it made it worse. Yeah, it made it worse.
So that's the sign. Raise
So
your hand.
we'll try this again.
Okay.
What were you doing at UGA?
At UGA, so just kept going to school for more degrees. I enjoyed it. They started paying me to go to school, so I got a master's through UGA in crop and soil science. And then they sent me overseas to Italy, where I got a master's in sustainable ag. Came back, started doing some cotton physiology in a doctorate setting. And about 2 years in, I just had a little bit of a disconnect because I like dealing with farmers and growers. And on the average, especially in Georgia, the average age of a farmer is 57. How many 57-year-old farmers that are going to flip through a 60-page thesis to read how to improve their farm?
Yeah.
It's rough. So stepped out of that, stepped into industry, and found my way here.
That's cool, man. So where'd you meet your wife?
In Tifton. I'll leave it at Tifton, in Tifton,
Yeah.
at a previous place of employment. But I met her one night, October 2nd, so that should give me brownie points because I remember the day. 2 months later, I moved to Florida.
You got brownie points, and all of us are like gonna get shunned tonight for not knowing the date. Yeah. That's cool, man. So then it brought you down here, and we'll get more of what you do after that. Let's hear Jeremy's story. Why are you somebody we should listen to in the precision ag world?
That's a great question. I ask myself that every day. I grew up in Georgia, like you said, row crops, cotton, peanuts, corn, soybeans, all there in my area. I grew up in a town of about 5,000 people. I think there may be 10,000 in the whole county now. There's one red light.
Where is that town?
Vienna, Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Small town, USA. I loved it there. I loved the way we grew up. But the old days, my granddad and my father farmed, and then later on, my father managed farms for people, and then we owned a trucking company as well. And when you're in a town like that, you're not a banker or working at one of the local restaurants. You're in agriculture of some sort. So I started scouting cotton when I was 14, maybe 13, 14 years old. Scouted cotton every summer.
What does that mean?
So basically, a crop consultant would hire younger guys that needed a summer job to go out and look at cotton plants. You basically walk through the field, and there was a method to the madness of you checked 100 cotton plants, and there was what we call thresholds. If you checked 10 plants out of 100 that had insects on them, depending on what the threshold was for that certain insect, you may need to spray. So we'd come back and report that to.
So that was back to our conversation. One of the first types of precision agriculture.
That was as precision as it got, baby. Go check 100 plants, and they had to be completely random. Like if one caught your eye, you were supposed to just keep walking past it and not pick it. Just stop and check a plant. And that actually still goes on today in a lot of the fields. So. I did that all the way through high school, and then I went to college at Valdosta State and studied marketing, and then moved back home and did consulting. I had anywhere from some years 5 scouts, some years 15 to 20 scouts that worked with me, and we did the same thing. And I owned spreader trucks, spreading fertilizer. We pulled GPS maps for soil samples, GPS soil samples for mapping and all. And then we come back and spread the fertilizer off those maps. So that was kind of my yearly job that, how the year went. When we were slow, I would go help friends pick cotton or run a tractor for them, when there was nothing going on. Usually when it was harvest time, that's when a consultant had nothing to do or, a scout had nothing to do. So we'd go and do that. And from there, I moved down here. I met my wife and moved down here and worked for Kenco Manufacturing for 5 years. Kenco builds plastic layers, sprayers, bed shapers, all vegetable equipment. So being from all row crop, I had to learn all the crops down here, which took a little while because Florida's so diversified. I mean, every county you go seems to have its own niche on what they grow and why they grow it. So, I figured that out while I was with Kenco, and through doing a project with Kenco and Everglades together, I met Gary Knoll and Kyle Norton, and we were off to the races.
All right, guys, so let's get to the beef of this conversation now. And we want to know about solutions that are going on right now, right? You gave us the evolution. It started with bubbles, and it seemed like you guys, and I'll speak a little bit from what I've seen, it seems like you guys have worked with farms over the past 10 years on trying to take the technology that's out there and then applying it to different farms. So maybe if y'all want to start by maybe we should start with the technology piece. Like, what technology is considered smart that's out there or that's been out there right now?
Well, all your core stuff, obviously we'd already talked about guidance, but that's kind of your base. Everything kind of starts with guidance to put the products where they belong, or put the beds where they belong, and then you have your rate control. But we're doing dry rate control, liquid rate control. You put it on fumigant rigs, it puts out fumigant. Then you have your leveling stuff for GPS leveling and terracotta software to where you can design different, you can design your field any way you want,
Like slopes and stuff?
Right. And if you want
Is
swells.
that for mostly drainage?
Yep. So you have that, and we're doing some auto path and active implement guidance on some projects right now. So what else we got?
No, I mean, you pretty much covered it. So you have the fundamentals, the bubbles, so the receivers that actually get the GPS coordinates, differential correction, depending on what they have. You mentioned WAS earlier. That's barely anything. It's not very accurate. Not throughout the day, not repeatable. But he's also mentioned RTK, so real-time kinematic. So we can get really good accuracy now on these receivers. And then you've got sub-inch accuracy, repeatable. Year after year, I think.
What when you say repeatable, what's not repeatable about it? Can you talk to us about how that?
So like your boat GPS, it kind of drifts around. That's not repeatable. You know what I mean? So if you're going through the field and your GPS drifts a little bit, it goes straight from pass to pass, but over the day, because there's not a correction. It needs a correction from a base station or from a higher level.
Gotcha. Okay.
Accuracy level from deer.
And repeatability is key, because year over year we're in the same fields, right? And we want to be same everything every single year. That's when they talk about repeatability. That's why that's important. I mean, you go into a field and you want to, especially
in season also.
Yeah,
because you have multiple different machines.
If you're pulling a ditcher and you need to be 3 foot off of that ditch, you need to be able to do that year in and year out, day in and day out. So that's what the repeatability that they're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. If you've ever seen like the CSI shows where they want to triangulate somebody's phone, that's what we're doing with satellites. So you have a satellite constellation all over Earth. You need at least 3 or 4 to triangulate where that receiver's at. But if you walk outside today, it's a clear sky. Tomorrow you might have clouds. You might have trees, things that interfere with that signal, so you lose your accuracy. By having differential correction, we can get around that. So when we say repeatable, it doesn't matter if it's cloudy today or not. I can get the same sub-inch movement of my implement. I know where it's going. If I do WAS, good luck. You can try that until the afternoon, and then it just fades out. So different receivers, the displays, the rate controllers. That's what really
a lot of sprayers now too. We got different sprayer.
The
smart apply
timing when they spray, right? Let's go through. So we've talked about technology. Let's talk about one solution after another. Like this is really what we wanted to get out of this today, was help the public and ourselves to understand when we say we have things that can help farmers. Can we go through those one by one? And we can take our time, and we don't, in no particular order.
Sure. Let's start with Smart Apply. I mean, that's one we're all very familiar with, all 3 of us. So,
You want to start us away?
Sure. So you take like a air blast sprayer, like one that's in a nursery. It's got a tank on it. It's got a fan on the back. It's got a bunch of nozzles, and it blasts the material into the trees to get penetration into the trees. So typically back in, it would be maybe have 2 or 3 sections, but there'd be the 4 or 5 nozzles on each section that would come on or come off. Even before that, they would just be all on.
And the sections are like in different heights, right?
Right, based on the height of the tree. Yeah, but in the beginning there was no sections. It was wide open, full blast. You just drove, you covered everything. Didn't matter. Then they got sensors where they broke it into like 3 sections. So based on tree height, there'd be like a sonar sensor, ultrasonic sensor that would see the height of the tree, and it would correlate that with the valve banks on height, whether 1, 2, or 3 came on based on the height of the tree as it go through. So they'd shut off smaller sections, saved 20% material, by doing that. Because in the grove you have resets, and then in nursery you have different sized trees.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because
right.
in this case, that's because there's different sized trees, right? So before, your first problem was not every tree is the same height. We're just blowing whatever we're blowing out over a tree, maybe potentially, or maybe even under a tree that's a taller type of leafy tree, because you're trying to spray the leaves.
Correct. For the most part. Yep, that's right. So then you take that to the next level, and Smart Apply guys, they come up with a LiDAR, which is a laser that basically scans the trees as they're going through there, and it's shooting a laser constantly, and it's bouncing off the leaves and the branches and all, and it tells the computer, hey, there's this much density there. So
Density, the whole 9 yards, it can tell you.
Is it basing its the power of spray like on the density?
right, so once it knows the density as well as the height, it will open up each individual nozzle. So if there's 25, 28 nozzles on each one, there's a valve on each nozzle. So it will turn off individual nozzles at one time, and then it'll also pulse that nozzle up to 10 times a second based on the density. So if it's really dense, it'll stay all on, and it'll give it everything it's got. If it's, let's just say it's a tree that loses some leaves in the wintertime in a nursery, there's less there to spray. So it'll pulse up to 10 times a second and cut that rate back, because it really doesn't need to be there, because based on density, we don't need to put that much. So you're talking another 25, 30% savings on top of that. And that's when you're talking precision, when you start.
So that's what you've seen, like in terms of savings in the,
Oh, yeah.
in the customers you guys are serving. Say it again. What do we got going?
It depends on the application, but 50 to 70%. There's some groves that have used it, and in their reset, where they have a bunch of baby trees reset, they've seen up to 70% savings, because they're just not on. It's only coming on right at that little baby tree, a little before and a little after it, and only where it needs to, and it's off the rest of the time.
That's
so
amazing. What?
Yeah.
So mostly nurseries, mostly you just have to have trees. Is that the only place you've seen this?
Citrus, pecans.
And what exactly are they spraying? Is this fertilizers? Is this like
But really, it could be anything. They're fungicide.
whatever you need to get onto the tree?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how do you apply this? Like if I'm already have an operation running, how do I get Smart Apply?
You call us.
Obviously, after, of course, and we'll plug the number here. After I call this squad, what happens after that?
It can go on pretty much any air blast sprayer that they have. So it's not like it's specific to Tammy or Jacktoe or Hurricane. It doesn't matter. It can be, as long as it's an air blast sprayer, we can put it on that sprayer and build a kit to go on there for it to work. We change out all the nozzles, obviously, because we put the nozzles that pulsate on there. Mount the LiDAR, and it comes with, it's kind of like an iPad, tablet type deal. But so you call, we quote it to you. You say that you want it. We come out and we just retrofit your sprayer with the Smart Apply kit. So.
What size operation is really going for this type of technology? Is it like mid-sized farms, or are we only talking like really large ag types?
No, really, these tree farms, man. Some of them are 100-acre tree farms, but where it works out for them, imagine going out there and taking a sprayer and just blasting spray everywhere, how much loss you're going to have there. Where in these tree farms, every block of trees, and some of them may not be bigger than this table, they're all different sizes, they're all different shapes. There's no uniformity in any of these tree farms. So they go out there with that, and it only puts the spray where the spray needs to be, which makes it, huge savings for these guys. And a 100-acre tree farm, any savings is good savings.
So then the more you're saving going through the farm, the less fill-ups you have too, because you can fill that 600 gallon and you're saving 40% extra above what you were. That's 40% further you can go on that tank, and you don't have to. Your guy doesn't have to fill up as often.
Right, so it's
So,
time savings.
so yeah,
Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter so much the size of the farm as much as what they're spraying and how often they're spraying. We've got some 70-acre blueberry farms that spray almost twice a week, and it's really expensive. So as soon as you start bringing in a system like Smart Apply, where they can get into variable rate application, saves their bottom line. So, I mean, it justifies itself in a growing season.
How expensive is it with all the sprayers? Is is that like the core cost that most farms have?
well,
Can be sprays and H2A labor
yeah,
in Florida.
they're getting hit from everywhere. The growers are having to try to be as efficient as they can because employment's going up if you can get it. So you need to be efficient with your guys. Chemical costs are going up. Yep.
Yeah, and every single farmer we've interviewed always says they, because the whole idea is like farms spray all these chemicals, these unwanted chemicals, and every one of them leave this podcast saying to the public, we don't want to spray chemicals because they're expensive, right? Like that's not what we're out to do. Yeah. So obviously it's a large expense for them.
And farmers are the best stewards of the land.
Yeah.
And then that gets lost.
Yeah.
That really ties into what the whole thing that we were just talking about, though, because, I mean, we're talking about precision ag and we're going through products right now, but we didn't really touch on why precision ag is so important.
Yeah.
Can you mind if we talk about that for a little bit? Let's just use U.S. Sugar or any sugarcane grower around here right now. They get a bad rap, right? They're a big target for anybody and everybody to say, oh, it's U.S. Sugar dumping all of this fertilizer. It's U.S. Sugar dumping all of this fertilizer. Well, if they went and looked at the cost of fertilizer, they would realize really quick that nobody's just out dumping this stuff out. Agriculture, as time has rolled on, has gotten less and less profit. There's numerous times you hear people say, well, we barely got by this year. And, years ago we used to laugh about that, right? Because you don't ever see a farmer living in a tent, right? These guys were making money. It has gotten tighter and tighter throughout the years because all of the input costs that go into what they do. I mean, we sell tractors. I can't sit here and tell you that tractor costs, if you look at a tractor 10 years ago, what the cost versus it is now, it's a huge difference. So precision ag is important because these guys have to do more with less. Cutting your fertilizer down to the bare minimum that you need to produce your crop, cutting your spray down to the bare minimum of exactly what you need. The list goes on and on and on. Eventually we'll get into, I'm sure, the conversation of autonomy and all these other things that are going on. But none of this stuff is happening because farmers are just dumping money all over the place. They're trying to cut. Take Florida, for example. There's homes going in left and right everywhere right now, right? There's hundreds of thousands of people moving into this state nonstop. When people move in, obviously there has to be more homes. And then we've got the solar battle that we're fighting as well. The government's pushing solar, so that's taking up more of our land. So we're left with what used to be a huge pie, now we're down to a slice, right? But we're still having to produce as much food as we ever have to support all the people that are here, all of the all the southeastern United States. Really, and in some cases, all of the United States, because we have a unique growing climate here that most other people do not have. And I don't know that there's another growing climate like we have here anywhere else in the world. So they're expecting us to do more with less now, and that's where precision has come in and played a huge role in that. And it will have to continue to grow. There's no way that we're going to ever be able to turn back to what we were, not with land, not with population, and all these different things going on. Precision ag and the technology in agriculture will continue to grow more than we'll ever see. Nothing will look like it did today, tomorrow. It'll just continue to change.
Well, it's funny because like that is some people would look at that and say, oh, the farms, they're just trying to find more ways to make money. But at the end of the day, the product they're making is pretty important.
One of the most important things on earth outside of this water.
It is, but I think a lot of people forget that, man. They go and they'll go to Publix, their shelves are stocked, they're having all the great foods, but they're forgetting that there are people on the inside of this state that are making that, right? And their job is to be able to keep making that.
So you get the complaints like in Plant City, right? It always cracks me up. They're like, oh, there's these chemicals out here. I can't breathe. I can smell them, and they're killing me. Not true, number one. But that same person complaining, if they went to the grocery store the next week and there were no strawberries on that shelf, they'd be the first to complain about that as well. Yeah. So it's like, what do you want us to do here? We're growing chemicals here. We're growing fruit here now with less chemicals and safer chemicals than we've ever used before. Yet, we're allowing Mexico to go unregulated and send stuff in with chemicals that we're not allowed to use, and we buy those right off of the shelf. Make that make sense to me. It doesn't. It doesn't make sense at all.
Well, after that, we'll get into solution two. I like that. We'll break it up. We'll go solution, then we'll go problem.
Yeah.
All right. So what's our next solution, guys? Smart Apply was really interesting. What else do we got?
Weed it.
Yeah, I mean, Weed It's just like Smart Apply. Smart Apply is LiDAR based. Weed It, however, is just using light emittance. So just, I think for that one right now, we're using near red edge. So specific wavelength of light that we're emitting down. We're looking at chlorophyll fluorescence. It almost has like a trigger light or a trigger wire to it. So it's looking down, you're driving through a field, you put this on a sprayer. So let me back up. This is just like Smart Apply in the fact that we've got valves or solenoids on a lot of these nozzle bodies. So if we're spraying herbicides, I want to go through and I want to burn down my field. I put Weed It on the back of my sprayer, and then I've got those cameras that are facing forward, and if they see chlorophyll, they see a plant, it times that valve so that that exact plant gets sprayed. And we're not doing full-on broadcasts. I'm not spraying bare dirt. Why would I do that? I only want to kill weeds that are there. Why would I spray all of the dirt between them?
That's available right now?
Yes, through us.
So we have a technology right now, just like Smart Apply. I can put on the back of something, run through a field, and it only sprays when it sees weeds?
Yes. Won't see it because there are no leaves, there's no foliage on the bottom of a bush, of a blueberry bush. It's a lot like a trunk on a tree. So it won't see it. It'll only see small weeds around it, so it'll only spray those and not the trunk. Beyond that, airports, municipalities, I don't know how many times you stop to think about it, but sidewalks and runways, they have to be clear from weeds. And what better ways to put it on the back of a gator, one of our gators, with a spray rig on it, and be able to drive through 10 miles an hour and spray every plant perfectly.
Is there anybody using this right now?
Yeah. We've got Eglin Air Force up in the Panhandle. We've got Tallahassee and a few other places, municipalities looking at it. Definitely have some blueberry growers interested in it, and they're trying it out. And the beauty of this system is Smart Apply, we're mainly pushing it on air blasters, but Weed It can go on anything. We even have some nurseries that just started doing cost share through the state of Florida to get approved for Weed It, and they've got special booms that stick off their side-by-side so that they can do a burn down outside of all their potted plants in their nursery. So they've got a boom that sticks off to the side. We can put Weed It on there, and it will only spray the weeds that they want to kill.
This boom will go over the potted plants?
So it hits them and goes around the base. It's different. Every farmer has their own boom or spray system. Weed It will fit on all of them. That's the beauty of it.
And I remember in a meeting recently, you guys were talking about the future of Weed It is being able to decipher between types of leaves.
Yeah, so what they're trying to look at is doing green on green. That's what we're going to call it. Because right now, the cameras or the sensors, if you will, they only see green and they trigger the nozzle bodies. But they're working on an unlocked feature to where hopefully we will see different shades of green. So if I actually want to spray, let's say, a darker weed or a lighter color weed on top of my sod or something like that, it won't fire off on the sod, just the weed that I'm aiming for. It's not there yet, but it's getting there.
I mean, I'm going to tell you, man, when I start thinking about future stuff, the day that is possible is the day that I feel like there's going to be like a little robot with a Weed It on it running through every residential community in the state.
Well, buckle up because that's probably coming.
And it'll have an Everglades
it's-
sticker on it, too.
It's got to be coming. I mean, that
Yeah.
thing would go yard by yard and just spray weeds.
Yep.
That's amazing because I spend a good bit of time on Memorial Day weekend spraying weeds.
You're going to be our first customer.
Right. I've got something for you. Yeah.
All right, so that's Weed It. Is there anything around Weed It that we need to know other than that?
I think Weed It's our newest product outside of the drones as far as precision ag goes. We've had it a couple of months now, but we just got the boom and everything like we wanted it. So demos are really just starting and it's going well. But outside of that, I mean, that's pretty cut and dry on what it, as with any other piece of technology that we have, nothing is made for what we do down here, right? I think you guys would both agree to that. We have to retool and repurpose almost everything that that is out there. I mean, most products are focused on, corn in the Midwest, but we see different ways to bring it down here, like especially the Weed. It's not made to do. One of the things that we're going to try to do with it here pretty soon is go through tomato fields and tomatoes grown on the plastic, have the laser scan the plastic. All it will spray, whether it be fungicide or whatever you want to put out, all it will spray is the tomato plants. Because now when you go out there, we're just blast and spray everywhere. There's maybe 18 to 24 inches in between your tomato plants that we're spraying that don't need fungicide on them. So if we can go out there the first 3 or 4 weeks of season and spray the plant directly, the chemical savings over a couple thousand acres of steak tomatoes is massive. So that's one of the projects now that we're retooling it for, and I think it's going to work fine.
Weed It or the See and Spray?
Weed It.
Or the Smart Apply?
Smart Apply.
Some people, just on that note, some people hear about See and Spray. Can you tell us where See and Spray fits in with Smart Apply versus Weed It? I mean, because I'm starting to realize that a lot of this is like the actual saying See and Spray is kind of the underlying technology of all this. It's just like, what are we trying to see? What are we spraying? But there's different variations of it.
Smart Apply and Weed It are their own companies with their own products. See and Spray, what you're talking about, is a Deere product. It's camera based, goes on a self-propelled sprayer, and Deere has their couple, you lost it. a couple crops that that they're working it in right now, corn and soybeans, and cotton. So once they progress, we're hoping they have it in sugarcane for too long, because they got certain software that would only work in those crops right now because of the camera-based algorithms, that they use to decipher what it sees.
I mean, fallow ground, it'll work anywhere. I mean, it doesn't matter what crop it is, but approved crops are those 3 that he said. And they'll expand on that. But it takes, I forgot how many millions of pictures they said they had to upload into this, or thousands of pictures. I mean, you have to have that crop in every shape, form, fashion that it can be grown for it not to spray it, right? For it to say, okay, I know this crop is this crop. Do you remember how many pictures they had to upload, like in cotton and corn?
It's a bunch. It's basically building a library.
Yeah.
It has to see it, validate it over time, and so many acres to say this is what that is.
Yeah.
So
What's solution 3? We're going to get through all of them for our viewers listening or watching. We're going to get through all of them here.
probably say the drones. You probably know as much about them.
Yeah, so DJI drones. We're all of Florida now. All of Florida's dealer for DJI drones. Basically spray drones. They've got now, I think, 4 different sizes, not including the Mavic. The Mavic basically goes and flies over and maps everything, but the other, it's the T20,
The T20, the T40, and then they're coming out with the
T50. They're doing away with the T30. That's why, yeah.
I saw the YouTube video on it. It looks fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty sweet drone, but that's really our newest product for sure. That I see it being very important in the future for basically going out and spraying wet spots. I mean, not that you can't go spray a whole farm with it. Don't take that the wrong way, because I know guys up in Georgia now that are defoliating their entire cotton crop with drones. But where I see it being extremely important is you get a lot of rain and you need to be back in the field. You're going to have areas that you can't get into, whether they be 2, 3, 5, 10 acres. You can go spray those areas anytime, day, night, whatever, with the drone. And otherwise, you wouldn't have got back in there for sometimes up to a week, depending on how much rain you've had. Anytime that you need to go, that drone can go.
So it's like spot spraying.
It can spot spray, or it can broadcast spray. It can
Yeah.
do any of it. But the biggest thing is being able to go anytime you want.
Can you explain, like, in a more simple version of how this actually works? Like, if I'm a farmer and I say, all right, I want to get involved with this, what am I getting? Because I just think, oh, I got a drone that'll go spray. It seems a bit like, what does this mean exactly?
Sure. So as with any other thing, you have to have a aerial applicator's license for spraying with drones. And I will say this, any drone that we sell, we have direct access to a lawyer that can walk you through every step of getting your pilot's license, your applicator's license. He can hold your hand the entire way on that. And it's really not that expensive for him to do. I wouldn't suggest anybody go try to do it on their own. Pay the extra money there, which, like I said, I can't remember. It was like $1,500 or something like that, to go and have him walk you through it. And he does a lot of the paperwork himself. But so you basically get him to guide you through it, and then you'll get your 107. Yep, aerial applicator's license, and there's a couple other small things that you have to have. Then you're pretty much ready to go and spray and use the drones. With the drones, you get the actual drone itself. I think right now we're doing like a 3-battery deal. You get the generator, which charges it. Obviously the controller, and depending on what size you get, the 20 stands for 20 liters. The 30's gone. 40 stands for 40 liter, and 50 stands for 50 liters. So we have found through the testing that we've done that you don't have to use as much water. So used to, like with an airplane, we wanted a minimum of 3 gallons. Now it's like 5. They want more and more water. Well, with the drone, because of the down pressure, you don't have to use as much water to get the same coverage. So that's, the 50 liters of spray, which is, how many gallons is that, real off the top of your head?
13.2 gallons.
Thank you. I should have just said the 40, because that was a lot easier math.
50 is 13 gallons.
All right, yeah, so 13 gallons. You can, by the settings on there, go from anywhere, I think, to like half a gallon all the way up to 5 gallons it'll put out. Obviously, you're not going to get but a couple of acres worth of spray if you're going 5 gallons, but 2 to 2.5 gallons is where they found to be the sweet spot with the drones.
If I'm going 2 gallons with the 13-gallon tank, how much can I spray?
You can get right at a little over 6 acres with one.
That's broadcast.
Yeah, and the
Battery on them.
the battery, so you'll go out and spray that whole tank on one battery. There's a rapid charge battery, so while that's out spraying, you've got another battery, one in the cooler and one on charge. When it comes and lands, you fill up, change batteries, send it again, rotate your batteries. It's a constant cycle, and battery lasts, the entire time you're spraying. You could probably load up and go again on the same battery, but you're only going to make it halfway through that next tank, and that's kind of pointless. So just keep cycling the batteries and going.
I was asking, maybe it was you in our last meeting when I heard about this, where do you see this going with, this has to scare some of the aerial crop spraying companies. Is there any conflict there? I mean, that's one of the more interesting parts of any of this precision stuff. Is it's a what's the word? Destructive. What do they call it? Disruptive for all these industries. You know, do you hear any talk about that?
Yeah, there's been talk about it, and in my opinion, not because we sell them, but just seeing the writing on the wall. If I were an aerial applicator that already had, my crop dusting license, he has everything he needs other than his 107 to fly this, which is the easiest part of it to get. I would be purchasing drones right now and adding them to my fleet on top of, his airplanes. And I think you're going to see more and more of that, to where those guys are some of the main ones that are flying drones. Drones aren't going away. They're going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We saw in the matter of we've been selling drones now or had the rights to sell drones now for 6 months, and they've already come out with one bigger than was offered 6 months ago. So it's not turning back, just like anything else that's out there. It's not going away. One day you may see just drones instead of airplanes. I'm not sure what you'll see, but
Is spraying the only thing that drones are doing?
No. I mean, you've got the good old boys in South Georgia feeding up their duck ponds by they'll put a dry hopper on their drone and then throw out corn. I mean, you didn't hear that from us, allegedly. Beyond that, and he mentioned the Mavic. The Mavic's got a multispectral camera on it. Without getting into all of this, we're talking about LiDAR, the near red edge, talking about different vegetation indices. Multispectral camera does nothing but take in all these different wavelengths. So I can build maps based off of, we're talking about flying it in turf, being able to see changes in the health or the biomass of the grass on a golf course before you can see it with the naked eye. But we can pick it up with a multispectral camera on a very tiny drone that they can fly every other day if they wanted to. So there's a vast.
Is this something, I know you guys mentioned the crop dusters, but is this something that people are gonna start bringing in-house, or is it more or less there's gonna be people who are gonna be experts and just offer this as a service? Are you guys seeing?
now what we've seen so far is, we've seen people buying them in-house.
Yeah, to do little niche stuff. So growers will say, well, I could probably do this with that, when I want to do this, and it's worth it to them to have that flexibility, and then you see guys on YouTube that are spraying 300 acres a day. So there's going to be a little bit of both, I think.
And we even sell one of them. I mean, you see the guys now setting up these trailers, and they'll have mixed tanks and pumps and all on the trailer. I see more applicators buying that do it full time. Will end up being the people that buy the trailers, because they'll hook to it, go and do their job all day long with it. I feel like the grower himself would probably just carry it around in the back of his truck and go fly where he needs to fly, depending on what he needs to do.
And so let's call that solution 4 in terms of imagery from the drone, because that feels like that's going to open up into a whole nother group of things that you can do, right? Because the first thing you just said is, if I could tell the health of my grass on a golf course before my superintendent could see it, that's its own product right there, right? Because they're going to want a drone in-house. They're going to want to fly that thing and be checking on their course. Is that does it have the ability to automatically go and fly, or is this somebody always driving it from a remote?
You press a button and it takes off on its own.
And it'll go do its course. I could draw out and say,
its
I
thing.
want you to fly over every 18 holes and then come back and then give me a report.
Yep. Can do that. Fully autonomous. For all the drones he's talked about, you can go on there and build a flight path, control all aspects of it. You just put it in a clear spot, let it take off, and it does what it does, and then it just comes right back to you.
That's amazing. And for any viewers ever that are watching this from now and into the future, we want you to put a comment on this video of what you think we could do with that sort of technology. Because I really think that's where it's going to get interesting, is the technology's there. It's just, how can we use this, right? What industry is going to benefit from that?
I mean, I think too, and it's already happening some, there's a lot of places you can't get a sprayer, like ditches and different places like that. That's where a lot of this will be used as well.
Custom spraying.
Yep. So counties and things like that, I see them eventually having a pilot that can go and spray ditches that are not reachable from booms or any other type sprayer.
Yeah. And it seems like there's an opening in the market right there for, sure, your aerial crop, you advised them right there correctly, go get these drones, start spraying. But it seems like there's a little opening here for the young bucks out there for another job opening. for that exact thing, like custom spraying. Solution 5. What is Solution 5? Where are we going next, guys?
I mean, we have Gus that we can talk about.
Yep. We got the Gus is a global unmanned spraying system. So it's a self-propelled air blast sprayer that they developed in California for the almonds and pistachios, probably in 2017. And we became a dealer in 19, I believe. And we got some running in some citrus groves here, and we also have some run in some pecans in South Georgia. So it's what the cool thing we did with the ones in Georgia was we added Smart Apply to it. So we have the first 4 Gus's in the field with Smart Apply on them. So we put the LiDARs on the Gus sprayers and individual nozzle control, and there's a lot of irregular shaped blocks, for ditches and swells and whatnot. So some of the efficiency you lose by not having square fields, for routing and whatnot. So we gained a lot of that efficiency back because of our spray savings and the length of which we can go on a tank now because of the Smart Apply savings.
That really changed the game when
Yeah.
we put Smart Apply on this.
Yeah, that really helped that deal along, and the fact that we got a nurse truck that'll fill them up, that can fill all 4 machines. So where we were making about 1 pass per tank, 1 to 2 passes, we're doing 5 or 6 passes now per tank on the Gus with the Smart Apply. The nurse truck can keep up. The nurse truck's waiting for a Gus to empty to fill it, rather than the nurse truck chasing machines and them stopped me waiting. So when they stagger them to start with, the length at which they can go on a tank now, with the added capacity of a nurse truck, a bigger nurse truck, balanced out the efficiency that we were losing with all these irregular shaped blocks, and longer rows here and pin rows there, so we gained a lot of that back with the Smart Apply.
So Gus is an autonomous sprayer that now with Smart Apply, you're getting the savings on obviously there's no driver spraying, and it's also going to get the efficiency with the Smart Apply like we talked about. Are these Gus's like they sit in a shed and then you map out the field, it'll go and do its job and then go park itself type deal, or?
They'll follow each other. Like you got one operator that'll run 4 machines, and he'll leave the shop and he can have each of them follow him to the field, and then he'll stage them where he wants. A lot of the mapping's done preseason, all the routing's done preseason, so they can pull up the file for this block and send the routes to each machine and get them started at the beginning of the spray season, and they'll typically have them follow each other. You can build pathways back to barns and send them. There's just extra.
What's your prototypical customer that should be interested in a Gus?
Oh, that's what we're working on. We feel pretty good about the pecan situation and how that's progressed this past year, adding the Smart Apply. I think that's what gives it a chance to take off, in the pecans in South Georgia. So that's what we're hoping we can.
So, I mean, if you're a customer, I'm saying, like, somebody's watching this, who would want a Gus? Anybody spraying? I mean, anybody who's interested in Smart Apply, would they be interested in Gus as well?
It's not. I don't know that it's for everybody. You got to have a large enough operation to justify it. It's not really a 1-for-1 deal trading out a tractor. You get more efficiency the more of them you have. So you got to be able to justify 3 or 4 of them, and then you got to have the right employees that can do this type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not. You got to have a little bit of forethought on who's gonna man these things.
But let's say you do have that. What is the selling point here? Like, if I'm the farmer, why do I want Gus? Do you see those what are those, like the savings you talked about on Smart Apply? What are those here?
Yeah, you're gonna have less. You're gonna have a couple less employees. and you're gonna be able to keep running, when operators typically stop for fill ups and whatnot. You got a guy that's running a nurse truck all day long, just filling machines, and they just keep going. Like, you fill them, they go. You fill them, they go. You fill them, they go. It's like a symphony. And over time, in a year's time, you put the same tractors up against the Gus's. If you have your routine down and you're humming, those Gus's are going to outrun that tractor and that man over time. They're going to slowly gain on them, just because of stops and fill-ups and all those things that we stop for. Those shouldn't stop for. They should keep going. So that's the idea behind it. Being able to keep moving.
Solution 6. What do we got?
Ops Center. Let's talk about Ops Center. That's one of the most important things of what we do. So
a lot of the base technology is your display and your receiver. So the receiver tells you where you're at, and the display captures all the data of the work you're doing. So we're not just driving straight and that's it. We're recording where we've been and what we've done. So especially if you have a rate controller or some sort of any kind of controller, you're going to be recording what you've done. So what you've sprayed, where it's been sprayed, how much of it you sprayed. So a lot of that will come into the display, and it'll go to your operations center. So you're going to have all your documentation in one spot, and it's going to be sent wirelessly from the tractor to your phone or your Ops Center account if you got it on a laptop. And so we're got a lot of people utilizing that now. So
well, there's just so much that's done in Ops Center, though. I mean, and one of the points that I want to make is Operations Center comes with the purchase of a tractor, right? I mean, you create an Ops Center account. I don't think there's any other tractor dealership or tractor manufacturer in the world that's coming with a software like Ops Center to where you can really do everything on your farm through Ops Center. I mean, you can push work plans to the tractor so that when your employee shows up, he knows exactly where to go and what to do. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of things that can be done in there. You can look at all of your fuel usage on the tractor. I mean, if you got one tractor running at 5 gallons a minute or 5 gallons an hour, and you've got another tractor doing 3, but yet they're doing the same job, there's an issue there, right? So a guy can go into Ops Center and look at all of these different things. A farmer can go in there and look at these things and say, hey, these 2 tractors doing the same job, they're burning the same amount of fuel, everything's right. That we have preventative maintenance now, expert alerts that come through JD Link, and they're coming through Ops Center now too, right? Don't they read into there? So basically what that does is your tractor, let's just say you've got a loose belt on the tractor and it's going to eventually wear out a pulley or whatever, the situation may be. That tractor knows that, and it says, hey, I've got an issue. It's going to cost you about $30 right now. That's what we call preventative, to go and replace this belt versus $1,500 or $2,000 to replace this pulley if you continue to run it this way. So the expert alerts, it sends those, and it'll even tell you if they're critical, how critical they are. I mean, what can be done in Ops Center is really.
And so for the layman, Ops Center, when you say Ops Center, it's Operations Center. This is John Deere's online software that comes when you buy a tractor.
That's correct.
And so any customer can get an account. Right, they can log in to this account, just like you see a lot of these dashboards, your banking dashboard, any dashboard that has information on it. Yep. And then you're saying that right out of the gate, you can start getting all of this information.
Once you transfer that serial number into your Ops Center account from the tractor, it's immediate. You start getting information immediately from that tractor.
What are some success stories you see with some of your customers using Ops Center or Ops Center data?
Gosh, I mean, if you just look at U.S. Sugar and what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can bring it back to just the bare minimum.
Yeah.
I got a vegetable grower that has a lot of older tractors, so they come out with the M modem, which is a self-contained JD Link that has its own GPS in it, and you just need switch power and ground, and you can put it on anything just to see location. You can also, if it has a diagnostic port, you can plug it in, and whatever data's on that machine, it might just be a little bit of fuel burn, might be a few things, but you'll still get those from it. But at the bare minimum, we put it on a lot of 40, 50 tractors, like old high crop tractors and spray tractors, and the guy was like, I just need to see where they're at and make sure they're moving and see that they have sprayed today. I don't care. I just need to see some movement and where they're at. And we did, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 of his tractors, just so he could see from, because he has farms in different locations, and he knows they're spraying, but he can see that they're spraying.
He can see what time they started, what time they finished.
He doesn't need the all down in the weeds data. He just said, that tractor's moving, and it's where I told him to spray, and I'm good. I don't have to drive down there and verify it. I can see it right from my phone. So that's a pretty cool bare minimum success story. I mean, just how.
And that's really available for everybody. This isn't just large ag now. You got this in commercial mowing, but I think what people really need to understand with JD Link and Operations Center, and I heard this from the guys we did a podcast with over in Clearwater or Naples area. If you're the operator, if you're the manager, you can immediately now see where your equipment's at. Is it turned on? Is it working? Right? And just with that information, you can start making strategic decisions you could not make before.
I mean, it tells, let's even on a mower level, right? It tells you how much, how many hours throughout the day that mower mowed. So if you got a guy sitting in the woods in the shade and letting everybody else do the work, they can tell immediately. Now, used to, you had no clue. You just assumed that everybody was doing the same job day in and day out, and they were all working equally. Well, that's not human nature, right?
Well, I just want to pause for 1 second and say, I remember growing up, and our family had a family farm, and that was something we would do sometimes. Like, I remember my dad driving through a field and be like, oh, I bet this guy's going to be sleeping, and that you roll up and he was sleeping, you know? And he was.
But there was no way to tell back then, right? Now you can tell everything that tractor does. I mean, even his simple story, like you said, of where that tractor's at and did it work today. You can tell that. Or we can go as deep in the weeds as you want to go. There's more data collected by JD Link and sent to Ops Center than the average farmer will ever use in a million years.
And just on this too, let's elaborate a little bit. I think John Deere's plan with this is to go from your residential mowers all the way up to large ag in being able to capture that type of data, because on the residential mowers, they're calling it property center, right? And there's like this split between the residential people. They're going to be on property center. So if you buy a new mower, gator, tractor, lawnmower, commercial mower, you can put all those assets into your property manager. You can see where they're at if you did any mowing, but then you can also see like your maintenance plans, buy your parts. And that's like the residential side of what you guys are talking about, right? On the Ops Center.
Yep. And the other thing that's great about Ops Center is RDA. That's helped us out as a dealer. When you go on there and you make your account, you can put Everglades as the dealer and give us permissions. So if you've got a problem, you need to talk to one of our service techs. They can use remote display access and see exactly what you're seeing inside the cab of your tractor in real time. So they can tell you what buttons to hit, what error codes are doing what. I mean, it's invaluable.
I mean, and sometimes, let's say you before you couldn't do that, you had to send a service truck out. And honestly, as busy as everybody stays, if the service truck takes half a day to get there, you just wasted a half a day when it was probably a couple of button pushes that we could have done right there on RDA. So it's a game changer. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and it's valuable to the customer too, because when you can get them out of a bind when it's plant day and we got a lot of people standing around needing to work and there's an issue and you can call them and fix something over the phone, it means a lot to the grower, you know.
So let's call that, because that was solution 6, I think we talked about. It was like Ops Center, being able to look at a dashboard and gather information. Maybe solution 7, you guys could talk about ETAC. I don't know if y'all wanted to do that, but I feel like that goes right into this, right? Because like with this added level of data, we have a team of dudes that are industry pros that are there to go into these do an RDA and go and help fix your problems. What is ETAC? Solution 7.
Yeah, Solution 7, Everglades Technical Assistance Center. We've got how many guys in ETAC now? Five, I think. Yeah, 5 or 6. But yeah, the same. I mean, it's even the same with the guys that are out in the field working on this integrated solution equipment. Anytime you can save time by looking at the customer's equipment from where you're sitting and not having to physically go put your hand on it, that's a game changer. I mean, that is a time saver. That's a money saver. You know, the biggest, I would say the biggest thing that ETAC is they're watching the expert alerts all the time. So customer may not be in his machine right now looking at it to say, oh, I've got one running in the red right now. What's wrong? We are. So if we are your service provider, we have access to your machines. We're looking at that stuff. We get an expert alert that says, hey, this machine's got a failure or something's about to fail on it. We react to that for the customer. We call the customer and say, hey, there's an issue that's going on right now. This is what's happening. This is why it's happening. We need to either stop and get it fixed, or you're okay to run for another week before you can bring the tractor in, or we can come and see it. And when you have those professionals sitting at a desk doing that type thing, that's service that can't be matched anywhere else. I don't know many other companies that can operate like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Solution 8. I keep putting y'all on the spot, and you always tell me we got all these things the farms need to know about, so we're laying it out there.
You done lost
today.
count.
You guys, can
Double
you just talk about
digits.
some like the custom work we've done? Like, you know, is there any like special machines that we've made?
Well,
for
good
anybody?
segue, because
Yeah,
that is
that's
exactly
where
what
I
they're
was-
going to get into now.
So distance trip, I guess we can talk about. Distance trip is a controller that Deere has. It's a UCC2 application controller, and it basically is just to use your GPS, and you can tell it distances to trip a signal. You know, so we had a guy that was laying out orange groves. So we rigged out a gator, put GPS auto steer on it, put the distance trip controller, and built a tank sprayer with paint in it, paint dye, and a single nozzle. And basically you give it a heading to steer on, and you give it a heading that you want to put the dots at, and it will go down through there and put a paint spot every so many feet wherever the tree's supposed to go when they're like doing an orange grove. So they used to have pull cables and whatnot, and have like, I don't know, 6 or 8 people on a crew pulling cables and putting straws in the ground to where the orange trees go.
Yeah.
And he's out there driving, just making a paint mark, and then has his straw guys strawing, so they can straw a lot
What else
faster.
have you done with this distance trip?
One thing we're looking at doing, we haven't done it yet, but we've talked about it for a few years. We just haven't had the time to do it just yet. Was a chop gate. So like a lot of the vegetable growers have a bedder that they'll make beds with, and on the back they have this gate, hydraulic gate, that chops into the dirt as they're pulling their beds, and it slams down real fast, comes back up. It makes a little alleyway for the water to get out of the rows, you know, because we're flat and we flood irrigate on the sand, and when it rains we want the water to get in those bottoms, and we want to get it to the side ditch, right? So they have a guy sitting on the back with a button, and he's hitting a button. So we can take that same technology and give it a distance and have it just
Anything with a certain distance that needs a trigger.
you give it a
Distance trip. So again, in the comments, leave what you think you could do with distance trip.
Just it's a controller that sends a signal to a valve or something. So
Right.
it's like options are, what can you
What-
think of?
What's the manufacturer that has this technology?
John Deere
John Deere.
UCC2 application
Yeah,
controller.
you did start with that. Solution 9. What do we got?
AutoPath active implement guidance. So
Wasn't that the first thing we talked about?
well, we mentioned it earlier, but we kind of went off a little
So
bit.
what percentage of farmers that could be using AutoPath are not at this point?
We're just starting to get into it. We got a few customers that are using it. So AutoPath, basically, we put a receiver on the planter, whatever kind of planter it is. Hopefully a John Deere, but we have vegetable growers that we don't have John Deere planters for. So you put a receiver on the planter, and it's recording where the beds or the seeds are being planted. So a lot of times we'll plant on top of these beds. The beds are dead straight because they're pulled with GPS. Another machine comes around with the planter, and the planter sits on top. Well, the rows of the little plants as they come up, there's a little bit of variance in them. The beds are straight; they're straight end to end, but there can be a little bit. You could hit a rock or hit a muddy spot, and
And it just moves like when
it just
you're
moves a
pulling-
little bit.
Because they're being
It's
pulled, right?
right. It's being pulled by a tractor.
Yeah.
And so the plants will have a little wave in them every once in a while. So when they come back to harvest or cultivate, if you're on guidance and you run straight, you run those plants over because your implement is a mechanical implement behind you, and it's scratching the ground or rolling next to the plants. And if there's any inconsistency in the plants, it'll take those plants out because it's going straight, right? So if we record the line that the plant was on, then we can follow the plant line. So now that line goes to Op Center. It generates the line of where the planter actually was. We send that line back to the next implement, whether it be a cultivator. So we got these little basket cultivators, and it follows the line that the plants were planted on. So
That's amazing.
so
That
whenever,
really is amazing.
right, so it'll follow those, and then on top of that, with active implement guidance, we got a side shifting implement that will also follow the row as well. So it's you can drive the AutoPath line, or you can actively.
Side shift. Oh, okay, because the tires might be going like this, but whatever that next thing is that's on top can be working with that line you've created.
Yeah, the tractor's going to drive straight, and then the implement is going to follow the plant.
So this, it's funny because this is really eye-opening. When I first hear AutoPath, I think like auto steer. Okay, who cares? Everyone knows about auto steer, but this is not auto steer. This is after you've made something straight, and there's more to this whole puzzle.
Yeah, it's actually recording where an implement has been.
Yeah.
And they got other versions of AutoPath that they're starting to use. They'll do AutoPath from boundary or AutoPath. So if you have different width implements, you can have the AutoPath line send it back to like a sprayer that's a different width, and it'll give you the path that's most efficient for that block based on passes and width of your machine. So it's trying to be more efficient in the field pass-wise when we're talking about planters and sprayers coming in after the fact. So we're kind of two different things.
Yeah.
It's still called AutoPath.
It really is amazing, that when the day really comes where we have fully autonomous tractors doing this type of work, people are going to think like it all happened overnight. I mean, that whole story you're talking about is such like an evolution of, we figured this out, now we can do this and this, and it's like a stepping stone. Solution 10.
Okay. So sugarcane harvesters have a lot of technology on them, in cab and when it comes to the harvest monitoring side of it. So Deere come out a few years back with the harvest monitor. Basically, I got a camera on the elevator, looking at the crop as it's going up the elevator to the wagon, and it can differentiate between the trash and the stalk, and it can give you a pretty good tonnage, per acre, live in the field basically as we're recording it. So then the next level after that was adding a smart clean fan to it, so it can adjust the fan speed based on the trash that it sees, and also it's got like a sensor on the hood that detects vibrations, so it'll speed up and slow down the fan based on the crop that's coming through it. So a lot of times you would set your fan wide open. A lot of them like to run the fan really hard. It's not always necessary to run the fan that hard. So you're talking a lot of fuel savings, you're talking a lot of acres of cane, talking a lot of rows, talking a lot of fuel. So if we can vary that even by 100 RPMs or two throughout a pass, across a whole fleet of
Is
machines.
there anybody that's not using this right now? That should
Yeah,
be.
we got
I feel
a
like there's
lo-
like
a
two
lot.
people. We'll call them out here live on the podcast. I mean, like because there's not a lot
The
of people
adoption
using
of that
sugarcane
has been,
harvesters.
yeah, there's quite a few smart clean machines.
So we'll call Solution 10 all the smart things that come with sugarcane harvesters. If you aren't aware of that, we can touch more about that. But again, it's only like 5 people in the state of Florida. So let's go to Solution 11. What else do you guys?
Why y'all keep looking back at me?
Yeah, Brad's all knowing.
Probably talked about machine sync in there with harvesters, but no, not yet. We could have just said we're working on it, but yeah. But anyway,
What about this one? I remember, and maybe we already discussed it, but like golf courses, you guys were working on a gator that not only would drive straight, but it would literally map out a fairway and be able to run, with the alignment of the fairway and be able to spray like that. Because I feel like that's different than just driving straight.
Right, and that's been around quite a while. Got adaptive curves and AB curves, and so there's different settings in the display for guidance lines that you can record tracks, and then it'll mimic that track across there. So if you go around something, then it'll just.
Is it at the point where I could get a gator and I'm a golf course and I could drive one pass on what I'd say this guy needs to do this pass on this day, and then it would go and do that?
Yeah. Trying to understand your question.
Well, I'm saying this. I'm a golf course owner, right? And I got a guy who drives holes 1 through 9 on Thursdays, and he does this exact path every Thursday because the golf course is the same every time. You're telling me you could get a machine to do that autonomously, and I wouldn't need the guy, and my machine would just go out and do that.
When we get the autonomous machine, then yeah, because the technology's there to do the lines and to do that, the functionality of it. We just got to have the.
you just need a guy. You just need a machine that will operate without somebody in the seat. That's really where we're at, because the guy's just sitting in there anyway.
Yeah.
He's there for safety purposes.
Yeah, and if you got some predefined work plans, that's what the work planner in Operations Center is. You can give it the boundaries it needs, the lines that it needs, and the job it's supposed to do. Send it to the machine, and they go to a list on their work list, and it'll even, when you pull into a boundary, it will auto select the work plan and the guidance line, and everything auto populates on the display, and he hits resume switch and lets off the clutch.
Okay. Before we jump into more questions like that, I'm going to give you one more chance to get a solution now that you guys want, because now we're going to have some fun and just talk about the future of precision agriculture or precision solutions in the earth-moving industry. Anything else? All right, so let's get to the fun questions now.
Is Tesla doing anything with this autonomously? Are they involved in getting involved in agriculture at all? I think that's something that he would pursue.
No, but it's funny you say that, because I was thinking about that on my ride down here today. You want to talk about it on the yeah? So me and my sons and my daughter, my wife, were in the mall this past weekend, and in the mall there's the big Tesla store, and I'm walking by, and my son goes, "Oh, there's the Tesla robot," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? I didn't know there was a Tesla robot." Yeah, so it was, anyway, we stopped and looked at it, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I was like, how does it work? And I didn't get in depth with it, but I walked off, and on the ride down here today, I was thinking, it's a matter of time with the way that farmers are looking for solutions to harvest, that they have robots walking around out there harvesting the crop, right? So if they can control these robots to do certain things, and obviously it's there for that, especially with AI and everything else that we have now on top of it. I think in a few short years, we'll see robots walking around harvesting in the field.
I completely agree. And honestly, I have not thought about that yet. I have not.
Yeah, they had it in the mall. It wasn't operating. Yeah, exactly.
I just haven't thought about the idea of the robot yet. Because the robot is going to be like your extreme custom thing that can be like, hey, I want you to go do these 36 odd jobs, right? 24 hours a day and never stop.
We had that.
And on a farm, it's not like anywhere else where you can't really, you can break things, but there's not a bunch of people out there.
That's correct.
So
and
it's kind of creepy.
yeah,
to be honest with
it-
you, farms are going to get a lot more creepy at night. You're just going to see these
the
little.
drive down here today kind of freaked me out because I thought about it for a solid 30 minutes, and I was like, if you can program that robot to see ripeness in the fruit, which is typically determined by color, right? So in a lot of crops, it's determined by color. So if you can teach that robot through AI to see a certain color, how to grab it, where to place it, you've got it licked because this thing's already walking around on its own.
They already kind of have that. I'm not naming the company, but there's a certain company that has this imaging software where it's like you especially with video, so in real time it'll be able to work. But you can type in a keyword, it'll know exactly it'll group all your content together.
Yep.
So if it can do that, I'm sure it can figure out how ripe the tomato is.
Well, then it gets weird because let's say when the tractor's autonomous, essentially it's a robot, right? So then it's like, what robots have wheels and which robots have feet, and what manufacturers are making these robots, right? Because John Deere, everyone talks about they're a technology company. One thing they surely will be when they have an autonomous tractor is a robot company. Sure. They're a robotic company.
They have to be. Yeah.
They're selling robots now.
Anybody that's making an autonomous tractor right now is a robot company. I mean, almost every one of them have robotics or some sort of robot in their name.
My only thing with the robots is that I was having a conversation with my buddy on this. Boston Dynamics with the dog.
Mhm.
They've been doing that thing for 19 years now,
Mhm.
and they're yet to release a product.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I think obviously they're getting funding from somewhere. and
Sure.
It's just straight research at that point. But like, at what point is it like, okay, we can release something to the public? Which aside from Teslas, I haven't really seen much.
Yeah.
But even Tesla, like we've been hearing about the self-driving car for forever. I was in college, sadly, 10 years ago. And I think that's the story, though, of this whole thing is it's all there. We all know it's right there, but applying it, whole different story.
Well, John Deere has an autonomous tractor. We know. Yeah, we know that they have the autonomous tractor. I can't go buy one right now. It's impossible to get. And what we're running into, it's more of a lawyer thing, right, than it is these companies ready to sell. They're ready to sell the product. The lawyers are the drawback. I mean, the issue of a tractor running out in the middle of a highway because it's equipment, right? It's going to malfunction. Things are going to happen. We saw the other day that because of a solar flare, right? All the tractors in the United States were basically in a certain area of the United States were sitting because the guidance wouldn't work. They didn't have satellites because of this solar flare. And it was a big joke that they were all going back to their row markers and continuing to plant. But the amount of technology that's coming will not change. It's just going to grow and grow and grow. Who does it first will be determined by a lawyer somewhere. That Deere had, how long has it been since Bear Flag was running down here? I mean, yeah, a couple years ago, we had Bear Flag that had a tractor running autonomously down here. It was pretty much flawless. It was doing what they wanted it to do. Deere bought the company. They shelved Bear Flag because Deere's lawyers won't let them release it. So I think what you're going to see is more and more startup companies go and do these things and get all the problems and the I guess what's the word I'm looking for here?
It's kind of like
The bumps.
the camera.
Yeah, the bump side of the road, and then the large companies like Deere and any other company that's manufacturing will then release theirs.
And then just like the problem with that is the startups. The goal of the startup is get bought out by the big guys.
That's right. That's exactly right, and that's what most companies want, right? These startup companies start, they go and do it, they get bought out, they're happy, they're on to the next thing.
You never see it until they decide to.
That's exactly right.
It's kind of like the camera deal, though, with the imaging and how many acres it's got to build this library. Well, we got to build a library of safety,
How many
and
images is it?
what's that?
How many images is it? Do we have a roundabout on how many they need?
No, I don't know. I'm just referring to the the same type deal. We got to have acres and acres of safely driving tractors. I think we got to get to that threshold too. Once he can proof it, has to be proven out. The easier it gets.
Right. What about like one of the ones I always think about is the residential mowers. Everyone thinks they're going to have a robot mowing their grass soon. How far are we from that?
They already have it now.
You put a cable, you have to map out your yard with the
Mm-hmm.
cable.
And this thing backs out of its little charging dock, and it goes out there and mows, and when it's ready to charge again, it comes back and puts itself on the charger.
I just felt like when you stretch that vision into the future, if they make ones on a commercial level, then I feel like instead of everybody having their own little robotic mower, the commercial mowing companies will be able to mow your lawn for a fraction of the cost. And you wouldn't. Why would you have your own if you could have one that's going to mow your whole neighborhood and just never stop?
Yeah.
Like, you just know you schedule your mowing for Wednesdays at 6.
It'll just be like at that point, what did it do? Like governmental, they'll just send it.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
HOA home, the HOA Roomba.
That'll be a part of your taxes. You got to pay your mowing fee. So anything else? What else we got, guys? Anything else you think we need to talk about on the precision ag space?
I mean, you guys want to talk about autonomy and like where it's going to start and where we see it going?
Yeah.
Because I mean, autonomy's coming quickly, very, very quickly. I think, like I said, you'll see startup companies doing it, and they already there's one now, Sabanto, that's doing it in sod right now. So basically, they're taking a open station, and they can do it on John Deere, Kubota, any of them, and that tractor basically goes out, mows the sod, comes back, parks, or stops wherever it needs to stop. It's unmanned, nobody's around it. So that's kind of the start of it, right? We're doing it inside, but in the very near future, I think, and the startup goal is for maybe one man to run 5 tractors, right? You're not going to completely do away with human interaction. It's impossible. But I think what you'll see is, one man watching over 5 tractors as they run. Well, what you just did was eliminate 4 drivers that may or may not show up for work, or maybe sick, or maybe you're not limited by the amount of hours that you can run. So if you have 2 guys running 5 tractors and they're running them around the clock, you're still eliminating a ton of labor there because you can't run one man 24 hours. I think that's where the whole thing's going to start, even if it's just in disking and rolling and land leveling. Pretty much with dumb implements, it'll start there. I mean, the mowers are dumb implements inside, right? So they need to be told when to turn on and turn off. That's pretty much just, that's it for them. But where it goes from there, the sky's the limit. I mean, once we get that perfected to where you can disc a field and then have one man watching those 5 tractors run, you can go to spraying at that point, because all you need to know is where your crop's at, where the drive rows are in the spray, and all that's guided by RTK. So as long as it's laid out correctly and mapped out correctly, sky's really the limit. But I think where we'll see it first, especially here in Florida, is disking and rolling and land leveling.
And is that something we could help customers with right now?
In the very near future, yes, we will be able to.
Just give us a call now. We'll schedule you for the near future.
Very near future.
Something I'd like to add to that is, we talk about reducing labor. Some of these guys don't have enough labor as it is. So autonomy's been getting like a bad rap, like you're taking all these jobs, or it's gonna take the jobs. A lot of times we don't have enough people to fill the seats of the tractors, and then, or other jobs on the farm aren't being done that need to be done that may not be as important. They get thrown in a tractor seat, and then things get, other tasks on the farm get pushed back or not done. Whether it be spraying ditches, or maybe painting gates, or fixing fence, or there's other things that get pushed aside because we're short on labor to begin with. So
I just kind of wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, that's a
we're
great-
not like
Great point.
it's not.
We're not. When I say that's 4 less drivers, I don't mean like we're taking 4 people's jobs. We don't have enough labor on these farms as it is. That's a known fact. The labor, instead of just having a man sitting in a tractor, because he's not driving anyway, he's literally just sitting in the tractor. He'll make his turns on the end to get the tractor turned around 3/4 of the way and hit the button again. But
You don't even have to do that.
yeah, you're exactly right. So
And there's like 5 other jobs that the owner really could have this guy doing. He just has to have a man in the tractor because.
Correct.
That's interesting. Well, we're obviously going to have a part 2 and 3 and 4 to this as the time marches on and as everything gets smarter. But if you're out there right now and you're a farmer or somebody that could find some of these solutions useful, reach out. We're going to be building a landing page devoted just to this conversation here because we want to get these solutions out there. But other than that, thank you guys. This was awesome.